Hello, and good morning, everybody. I'm your host, Keenan. Welcome to the May 19th, 2022 weekly DXdao Community Call. Today, we're going to be chatting a bit about the DAOist Dawn, all about REP, and a bit about some recent DXdao product updates. You can find the agenda here in the Mothership text channel. I'm going to drop that here. Cool. And let's hop right into it today with some recap. Zet, if you want to take us away with Swapr, a bit about what's been going on, what's new, and what's coming up.
Yeah, sure. We actually have some movement now. So let me see if I can find the link to their latest release. Here we go. I'll paste it in the chat. So beta 12, finally, it is packaged, released, but not deployed yet. We're waiting for a community member to create a proposal to deploy beta 12 on our ENS, and so it actually has some new features, a new swap box, making it much, in my opinion at least, much better than the previous swap box, showing USD prices on all tokens, showing it just beneath it, having alternative receiver on all swaps, and this is supported, I think, on all Uniswap forks. I don't remember exactly what we ended up on, but we have alternative receiver, which means you can make a swap and send those funds to an alternative wallet in just one transaction. Really useful feature, and overall just better experience. We have launched the Echo router on Polygon. That means Swapr is on Polygon. That doesn't mean we deployed anything on Polygon. It's just you could use the Echo router in Polygon, and starting off with a couple of markets there, and we'll be expanding to more markets and more networks. That's the major things on beta 12, and other than that, you guys can see from the link that's huge list of fixes, huge list of improvements, but that's the major things. Now when we're done with beta 12, I think we can focus on the bigger parts that actually made beta 12 a little bit delayed from the release. And one of the things is the CowSwap integration, Curve integration, Connext integration. So we're integrating a couple of protocols, and some of them is taking more time than we expected. So we are expecting some of these to be released on beta 13 and the rest on beta 14. Hopefully we'll not have as long as delay as beta 12. So yeah, we'll be moving forward with the releases faster, I think. Yeah, that's most of it.
I know one of the nuances with adding Curve to the Eco router is Curve's own router doesn't support native currency, at least on Gnosis chain. So if you wanted to trade XDAI, you have to wrap it and then do the trade, then unwrap it. So one of the things under development by Zet and the Swapr squad is an extra smart contract basically to handle that for the Curve router. And that needs to get audited, but good news is I was just talking with one of our auditing firms this morning, and it looks like they should be able to do that next week, and that will open up the path for the Curve integration.
So yeah, we basically already integrated CowSwap and Curve. It works. We still have some testing to do, some improvements to do, but it works. It's crazy good. So for Curve, we have not integrated Curve on mainnet, but Curve on Arbitrum. It's a shame. So yeah, I think we're looking for a release really soon. Yeah, other than that, I think one more thing maybe I could bring up. So we're working on a do-it-yourself farming update. We're adding support for single token staking. We're adding a simulator for the creators of these rewards. So basically you can simulate the whole pool staking and price simulation and all of that before you even create the rewards. So this is really, I would say, one of the better or best tools for any farming creation simulation out there. So that's something we're working on right now. Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of more stuff. I can talk for hours, but yeah, that's the major thing.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much, Zet. Big, long recap here, and the new release is exciting. Just from actually a question from me, mentioning CowSwap and Curve. Curve obviously coming at a later time. Is CowSwap included with this release, or are they both coming at a later time?
They're coming at a later time.
Okay.
So we have different reasons, but we haven't tested them good enough, and there's some fixes we need to do. Soon.
Cool. Thank you very much, Zet. Open any questions here in the chat or anyone else on stage, of course. Open question to those of you on the stage. What do we think about running the music through this call? Any objections to that? Just to experiment a little bit.
What about the cat?
Yeah, I was going to say, probably hearing my cat freaking out in the other room. I apologize for that. Only joins for the lo-fi beats.
Yeah, my beats are at a nice level right now, so I'm kind of enjoying it. Zet sounded great. I don't know if that was just because Zet sounded great or it was the lo-fi beats.
They definitely complement everything.
Yeah, I think it's a mode. I'm not sure how it sounds when you don't adjust the volume. I adjusted it a lot, and I don't know how the mobile experience is adjusting the volume. Maybe if someone is on the mobile, how is it?
I think the default's actually almost overpowering, which is kind of the fear. Just seeing tri-selects typing here. You can adjust on mobile too. Okay. All should be good then. We'll experiment today. If we have anyone complaining or anyone joining, leaving really quick, it'll be pretty obvious. And also the recording, I do a little bit of AV, and the audio sounds nice in the background. So no conflicts there. Cool. All right, yeah, well, thank you very much, Zet. Let's experiment today with some more music throughout the call. Let's chat next. TheDAOist Dawn. I think we have Sky around here who has the forum post. Would you like to tell us a bit about TheDAOist Dawn and why we want to get involved?
Sure. So the DAOist is expanding and growing, and there is a team that has been building the DAOist from nothing over the last year or so. They've put on a handful of great events. DXdao has been a participant and sponsor of all those events, has gotten a lot of awareness and connections and kind of leadership, some leadership position from those events, from participating and also being one of the main sponsors. As part of this ecosystem, they are launching what is called the Dawn DAO, and that DAO is to basically be the overseer and governor of the entire ecosystem of events and all of the initiatives and ideas that are coming out of it. There's a whole bunch of new ideas that are part of the DAO that's expanding, such as a meta hub, which is a physical place in Lisbon where DAOists and people can come and meet with each other, use for offsites, connect with other DAOs, figure out the problems that DAOs are facing. There's a plan for potentially having DAOists in other regions as well. And then there's a whole plan for creating verticals of focus and additional events that the DAOist plans to do. there's a core team which has built the DAOist from the start, and that's almost doubled over the last year. And as part of launching this DAO, which would be an entity, similar to DXdao, and a DAO that kind of oversees what is happening in this ecosystem, does not have to come up with all of the ideas itself, but is bring a lot of different perspectives together and supporting the growth and goals of what are decided to be the DAOist goals. And as part of that, to launch this Dawn, there are membership opportunities, a handful of ambassador, which is like the highest membership of 75K, and then some ministry, about 15 or 18 ministry memberships, which are 25K. So you can think of it as a tribute to this DAO, to become one of the key participants, kind of helping to become one of the faces of the DAOist. As the DAOist grows, these members will be at the forefront, getting to decide where it goes and how it's represented in the space. And so they've invited DXdao to participate in this. There's a post that has a lot of information. There's a whole bunch of links to documents and plans and background for what Dawn, the DAO, is, and some of the things it will be focused on. There's additional information included in the post about answering some questions that we asked to the team directly. Everything is not dependent on the decisions of the DAO, but there are lots of ideas that the team, and this is part of this funding is allowing the team to go full time, to become a much more focused team, to dedicate towards the DAOist and growing it. And the Dawn DAO is kind of the partner that will help achieve these goals and oversee it and make connections. But that's the background, and if you have any thoughts or questions, you can raise them in the forum. The DAOist team is happy to answer any questions. If this becomes, some people think that this entity will become, one of the most recognizable DAO of DAO gatherings in the space. If they continue to do events like this, people will look to this organization when it comes to DAOs, and this would be kind of the main opportunity to solidify DXdao to be a part of that experience. But that's some background. This has been on the forum. At some point, I guess we could do a signal proposal, depending on what feedback is like and what the community thinks, and then we could move from there.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sky. Open any questions, comments here, anyone on stage or in the chat here. We'll give a minute for that. Otherwise, we'll move on to our next topic here. Just seeing some typing.
While Mar is waiting, I will say I am biased because I've spoken at the DAOist in Lisbon and in Amsterdam, but I think they do produce good content, and there's not very much media out there in crypto and DAOs that I think is high quality right now. And I think they're producing, the programming, the whole experience, I think was, pretty good.
And I think they're probably the most consistent DAO-focused conference producer. At least I don't know of others that have done as much as them.
Yeah, and I guess just to think a little bit about how media develops, right? You can see how the DeFi wave, right, created a couple different very DeFi focused media brands like the Defiant, Bankless, and you guess there really weren't any conferences off of that. But I'm sure there will be like media brands built kind of off of the DAO space that will grow in the future. But those are kind of forming now. And yeah, I don't really know of anyone else that is, producing content like that. There's some data gathering sites, right? DXdao, even Tally, the Boardroom, those kind of ones. But in terms of like, a conference, I don't really know of any others that are of high quality.
And one of the things we were talking about earlier today is when making a decision like this for DXdao, we know that participating in events in general has been beneficial for DXdao in supporting and being a part of those communities that are organizing those events. Like for example, I guess ETH Denver has SporkDAO too, which will eventually be the overall organizer. But like you should compare this against alternatives. Like potentially we could sponsor DevCon or try to sponsor DevCon. It would probably be at a pretty significant cost. And to be very clear, this fee to become a founding member of this Dawn DAO is not like, this is outside of a sponsorship. This is not considered a sponsorship of a specific event. So there will still be events, but DXdao as a member of Dawn would be much closer and plugged into the organization of those events and participation in those events, and could probably have a bigger presence at those events. But I would put it into like the marketing event slash, it's a DAO related to events, so it's event related. But you want to compare it against other potential event or event related opportunities. And so unless we have some other ideas that people are excited about, which they could also raise, as you guys said, I don't know of any other production like this that's as good, is in existence. But there are going to be shitloads of DAO events over the next few years, and we can always make decisions on those at the time. But we haven't seen one that's been with a proven record like this so far.
Yeah, and like comparing it to other maybe sponsorship opportunities, there are things like DevCon, ETH Global hackathons. These are like very well established, like very well run events. I mean, and they're like really great events. And so I think, having visibility at these events is high quality, but they're also getting quite crowded on the sponsorship side of things. Like I think the ETH Global, you can't even comprehend all of the logos that you're looking at when you look at the sponsorship stuff. So it's sort of hard to stand out, and I kind of wonder what kind of value you're getting out of sponsoring these, kind of getting these ones that are well known and getting crowded. And I feel like if we're bullish on DAOs, and DXdao is in this position to be a leader amongst DAOs and really push the space forward, I'd say similarly, the DAOist is probably in a position to be a leader in DAO focused conferences. And I guess I'd be hoping that by sponsoring them while they're still or getting involved while they're still at this relatively early stage, who maybe get a better return on the investment in terms of visibility and influence. But it's a little bit of a bet that DAOs are going to get bigger, but I think that's a bet that makes sense for DXdao to make.
Completely agree. Question, Sky. Does participation in this get us free tickets or any kind of participation arrangement?
It doesn't get us sponsorship of a DAOist event. The larger ambassador slots, which are $75K, those come with a sponsorship of a DAOist event, which is obviously maybe a 10 or 15K cost. So it's a larger upfront to include a sponsorship. This does not give us sponsorship, actual sponsorship of a known event. It does give us first access to probably attendees and first look at sponsorships and things like that, and brings us closer to the community, which has helped in the past DXdao get additional access to or more access than some other communities to some of the DAOist events. And so there are some benefits around that, and being closer always leads to additional benefits that are unknown at this point, but it doesn't actually get us like a sponsorship of a DAOist event. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Just seeing Ambassador Perks here in the chat. Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, thanks for stepping up here, Sky. Thank you, everyone, for sharing some thoughts. Let's move on here to the next topic. I wanted to quickly highlight a couple of releases that have happened in the last week or so. First of which is Carrot Alpha V12, which I'll drop a link to in the chat here. Should be there. All in all, a little bit of a minor release, fixes some bugs, the kind of highlight page, the total campaign page, of course, a bunch of subgraph stuff, and switching to the limo router, which, of course, Sid may be excited about if he's still here. We've also adjusted some colors and whatnot. Everything's looking good. The most important thing, of course, being that the updated campaigns for the newest epoch of Swapr are kind of found in the UI now. So if you look at the Carrot site, they should be both featured and also in the All Campaigns browser. So no more conflicts when trying to access those campaigns. So a little quick one from Carrot. And then the bigger one, which we chatted a bit about last week, but it was not out at the time, I believe. This guy right here, DXstats v1.5 is out as well, which I will drop a link to actually access right here in the chat, dxstats.eth.limo. Beautiful addition. We have a new dashboard, a whole bunch of new things, including farming interfaces, kind of updated stats and everything. Highly recommend taking a look there. Lots has changed. To kind of paraphrase it, I believe the load time has increased, I think 6 to 10 times. We have the farming page, the multi-chain dashboard. The dashboard I just mentioned has access to all of the current Swapr deployments. And then the visible swap fee on each pair are all kind of important things. So when you're looking at the pairs, of course, you can see the swap fee as well. I believe there's also some big changes to accounts. I think your liquidity and fees are now tracked more accurately. So would suggest checking that out as well. But lots of great stuff. And one thing worth noting, and then this is off script here, is that according to DXstats, we presumably just crossed 1 million trades on Swapr, currently showing 1,002,768 on my end. So we must have just crossed 1 million total trades here.
Who made the millionth trade? Did you give them a POAP or an NFT or something? I don't know.
You just send them one of those pop-ups. You are 1 millionth trader. Click here to claim your new Ferrari. Imagine how many on the router. Yeah, super exciting. I wish I had a soundboard to play some like confetti or something, but that's super awesome. All-time volume currently sitting at 240 million as well. Yeah, I'd highly recommend taking a look at DXstats. Where's the air horn button? There's actually some bots that'll pop into the call and make a big air horn noise. They're very obtrusive, though. Air horn. Cool. So big highlight on those. Highly recommend checking out the Carrot front end and, of course, DXstats. Lots changed there. Lots to look through, especially if you're a Swapr user. So take a little dig through there after or during this call. Next, let's chat a bit about REP. We got a crash course on REP and the importance of tidy rep. This is related to a forum post by Sky. But before we kind of get into tidy rep, what it is and what it means, I thought it was a good opportunity to run over for the recording kind of what REP is, what our approach is, kind of the history behind it. So we have John here. John, would you like to take that away?
Sure. REP is short for reputation, which is what DXdao calls its voting power, and it is non-transferable, meaning that it's really just a number associated with your address on the reputation contract that is part of the governance contracts, and part of the governance system. So you can get more rep, or you could potentially even lose rep via proposal to the DAO. So it's really up to the existing rep holders to mint or burn rep via proposals. And DXdao inherited this and kind of got this from the DAO stack system that it was launched on. So like DAO stack DAOs all have this rep concept, and it's something that DAO stack had developed back in like 2017, 2018. And so the history of DXdao itself and how kind of rep had been initially distributed was that in 2019, Gnosis and DAO stack together launched or incepted DXdao, using a stake drop mechanism to give the initial rep out. So 1 million rep was given out primarily by the stake drop mechanism. And so that involved, locking up ETH or locking up a set of any of a set of whitelisted ERC20 tokens. And another big piece of that was if you had MGN token, which was earned by using the Dutch exchange. This was like the first product that DXdao had. It was a gift of Gnosis to DXdao right at the beginning. And yeah, basically if you had used the Dutch exchange, you were earning this MGN token. And if you had the MGN token at the time of governance launch for DXdao, that was a big part of the initial reputation distribution as well. And then a small portion of it was actually given out to people who provided this Gen token, which was the native token for DAO stack and is used in their holographic consensus and is actually still used by DXdao today in the governance, as part of holographic consensus, which we could talk more about if you want. But yeah, basically you had this initial 1 million rep distribution to people who were actively participating, locking their tokens back in May, June of 2019. But since then, rep has inflated considerably, and it is really just given out to those who are providing value to the DAO. And these days, that's mostly contributors who are working for DXdao, earning a rep alongside their contributor pay. So I actually don't know the numbers off the top of my head. Chris might be able to chime in here and talk a little bit more about where we stand today in terms of the rep inflation, but I think it's almost doubled if I'm gonna guess, but somebody can correct me there. So yeah, that's rep. Again, it's non-transferable. Sometimes people say it's a non-transferable token. I kind of like to avoid calling it a non-transferable token because to me, the whole point of a token is to be transferable. But if you want to be technical about it, the reputation contract is using basically the same thing as the ERC20 standard, but without the transfer function. So you can, pretty close to the ERC20, but I'd say that transfer function is a pretty important piece of the ERC20. So if you remove that, it's really nowhere near ERC20 anymore. So yeah, non-transferable. I think reputation is a great word to use myself. I think it is pretty apt for what it is. DXdao has a max for where you can earn new rep. So if you're above 4%, then you can't earn any new rep. And the idea there was to sort of enforce a level of decentralization. I think another term is Gini coefficient, how distributed the voting power is. And I actually think this is something we probably should be revisiting soon, because as DXdao gets bigger, I think it's important to continue to push how decentralized the governance power is. And I actually think 4% is probably not low enough as a max if we want to keep pushing decentralization. And a quick way I just kind of check that in my mind is if you think about what it takes to get absolute majority, that's 50% of the rep in a vote. And if 4% is the max and you have people earning this, eventually you'll have enough people with 4% that, that's would be like all, let me rephrase this. Like if you divide 50 by 4, basically, that's like 12.5, right? So if you had 13 people with 4% rep, which I think is something that we're on the path to get to with contributors earning rep, then you can think of that as a measure of DXdao's decentralization. And I think we can do a lot better than 13 people getting to absolute majority. I think we can continue to push that to higher and higher numbers, which again, I think is also like a Gini coefficient. So that's something we could maybe discuss sooner or later. But yeah, that's reputation. Keenan, do you want me to talk about like governance 2.0 or are we good with just where we are with rep?
I think it'd be good to pivot into governance 2.0 while we're talking just broadly about rep. I think it'd be good for Sky to chat a bit about kind of tidy rep and the current state of rep mainnet versus rep Gnosis chain and that kind of forum post. And then after that, going into governance 2.0, I did invite Ross, but it doesn't look like he was able to make it today.
Yeah, that was a good explanation of history of rep. And about a year ago, like a little more than a year ago, mainly because of extraordinary gas prices on mainnet, DXdao opened a base on Gnosis chain, which was XDAI chain, and has been doing a majority of its like active monthly governance for contributor proposals and for signal proposals and for other treasury management proposals. A lot of that's been happening on Gnosis chain, and mainly the rep that contributors are earning, which we base off of a percentage of a regular full-time monthly contributor. We've been using the mainnet rep, total rep, as the base, as the reference base for how you calculate how much rep you earn each month. And so as people do that, their rep on Gnosis chain is increasing, and that obviously diverges from what is the rep mapping on mainnet. But we've always had kind of a known goal to keep those numbers relatively close. So as you earn this rep, you mainly claim it on Gnosis chain, and then every now and then you should claim what you've earned also on mainnet, and so that mainnet continues to look correct and appropriate and in line with kind of what's been earned and how Gnosis chain overall rep is increasing. But what's happened is over the last, say, year, most of the rep that's been earned has only showed up on Gnosis chain and hasn't been claimed on mainnet. And you now have this pretty sizable discrepancy where the mainnet rep hasn't really changed by very much in about a year. And we are using that still as the base for how we are determining an earning rep. And that's obviously incorrect. So because we haven't been doing regular syncs to mainnet, we have this problem now. And so it was kind of important to document why this problem matters. And there's a few different reasons outlined in this post. It's mainly, largely affecting negatively newer contributors who are trying to get up the curve, earn some voice in DXdao, that are starting. And then it also affects people that reach the cap, and whether or not that's actually the cap of where your rep should be. And then the people it probably helps the most is the very old stale rep. So very old stale rep of people that are just holding rep but haven't been participating or contributing to DXdao for a very long time. They continue to be like more protected by this fault in the system. And so in order to solve and help alleviate some of those three main issues, the way you do it is you keep mainnet rep in sync with what it should actually be, and so that then allows the reference on mainnet to be more accurate for when new people earn rep. And so how do we fix that? We could go back and we could go back and analyze how much it actually should have been as people earned rep. We have some numbers for what people actually earned on Gnosis Chain. So the easiest solution is to encourage everyone to sync their current numbers that they've earned on Gnosis Chain and sync that to mainnet to get mainnet rep up to speed. There's an additional option to actually bump that up by what it all should have been if mainnet rep was more accurate along the way, and then somehow incentivizing, hard to require, maybe not best to require because some people don't actually want to hold rep, but incentivizing people to do these syncs on at least a quarterly basis, having the resources for people to understand how to do it exactly, having people that can help them do it is also important, and making it very clear that this is an important issue, and all mainly because the distribution of rep and is critical for DXdao, and this is a hiccup that's preventing it from working the way it was meant to just be being distributed. And so these would all be moves to make that better and make it more correct and effectively continue to help distribute and decentralize DXdao, which is good for DXdao overall. Yeah, that's the summary.
It's super important. So like the call to action here, and I think this is primarily for like contributors, is to claim your mainnet rep. And it occurs to me that maybe some people in the audience don't know the full history of how DXdao deploys bases to other chains. So just to kind of touch on that briefly, when DXdao launched the Gnosis chain base, it's a clone of the reputation on mainnet, or at least as close as to the clone is technically possible. There was actually a little bit of a issue with Gnosis safe contracts holding rep, because you can't just copy the same address of a Gnosis safe from mainnet to another chain. It just doesn't work that way. So there were like some technical limitations, but the design goal is like to clone a rep from the mainnet base, which is sort of the mothership, kind of like we're in the mothership call here, and then you set up a new base somewhere else, and then that base, and this is all outlined in the proposal. If you go back to like the original, like I think it's like the anointment or the ordaining of the new base on Gnosis chain, that rep can diverge on that chain, right? Like new rep can be issued by that base according to whatever proposal it wants to make. Some of that rep, if is actually been like proposed and agreed upon by the mainnet to be eligible to be claimed on mainnet as well. Like in particular, I think really the only thing so far is worker rep earned via proposal to Gnosis chain base is currently eligible to be claimed on mainnet. And the reason they're being like, this was an operational necessity to move these proposals to Gnosis chain because they were getting way too expensive on mainnet. So yeah, just a little bit of history there for those in the audience who may not have that context. But yeah, just want to reiterate what Sky said. Call to action here, like claim your rep if you haven't yet on mainnet. Everybody on stage has done that, right? We're all in sync here, guys.
I think I was one of the more recent ones, but that was still some months ago at this stage, I think.
Calling Zed out here. This is your call to action.
Question, I guess, for the stage. The Discord rep boosts are mainnet rep that is kind of requested on Gnosis chain. How or if are we going to look to sync that in the future? Because that might be something worth kind of adding to this conversation.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's the individual could always make a proposal to sync that rep on mainnet. However, it may not be that practical, right? Because it's rather expensive with like gas costs and stuff to make these proposals. And I could totally understand and would maybe expect that this would be the way most people would feel, is that it's maybe just not worth the out-of-pocket cost for them to get their like Discord rep boost on the mainnet. What I hope we can get to in the future is, maybe there's actually just more scalable solutions to governance in general. This is a general challenge that we have that I hope that we as DXdao and we as everybody working in crypto can make progress on. But we're also working on new governance frameworks, and I think we'll also be adding, new functionality which will, make it more cost effective and easier for people to keep the rep in sync, right? Some things like batch rep updates to mainnet, potentially like the DAO itself paying directly for gas costs and proposals so that the user doesn't have to front it. Those are just a couple ideas I can imagine being worked into the new framework when we get to that. But yeah, I'm hoping that this stuff will get better in the future. We understand that as a challenge.
A kind of broad meta point on that. We think about reputation and, as a primitive, what does it offer? What does it enable? And how does it set DXdao apart? One of the things that actually brought me originally interested in DXdao when I was first exploring things here a couple of years ago was Matan Field, who was the founder of DAO Stack. I think he had a line, or maybe it was Martin, I think it was Matan, who said, DXdao could be the largest organization in the world, precisely because reputation is a scalable primitive to literally potential billions of people, right? And I think when you think of like tokens and all these other kind of projects as a primitive, they lack some of that ability to inflate and still add to the system. So that's a really, I think, exciting concept that we have with rep and we have now. Now the question is like, well, how do you scale, right? And that's kind of the big question with so many of these things is like, well, how do you scale, like in terms of making that a productive system? How do you scale that in terms of having like batch rep awards or all of these different things? But it just, I think it is incredibly, maybe it's just kind of stating the obvious, but the DXdao list of reputation is incredibly important, and we should be thinking about how to obviously make that secure, but build that and kind of expand that going forward, and that's the long game here.
Yeah, I mean, it probably can't say it enough, like DXdao as a scalable collective, like this is a big idea, right? And the other thing that Matan and like Kubelman were talking about, right, which is the holographic consensus, right? That like not only is reputation a more scalable primitive, but the technology of like having a good filter system to like give the right amount of attention to each proposal and actually like be able to pass proposals in a scalable way. That's like built into how DXdao was created. And that's really cool. But yeah, how do you scale? There's lots of questions around that. Like even just how do you scale operations? Like even if the base tools have this functionality and are like opening the door, there's still a lot of questions, like how do we operate, how do we deal with high gas costs? These are things that we're facing, and I think we have lots of challenges in that way. But yeah, I don't think you can say it enough that like one of the things we're pursuing here is like how to make a very scalable collective and maybe the most scalable type of organization that's ever existed.
Well, speaking of scaling the collective and conscious of the fact that we're nearing the top of the hour here, probably a good opportunity to chat a little bit about governance 2.0, maybe even just paraphrasing, and we can have a full kind of segment on it, maybe in a coming community call, but very relevant to these topics, I think.
Yeah, I would say very simply, just to like kind of touch on it briefly here. Right now, the actual governance power isn't in the hands of the reputation holders, right? The DXD holders by social contract are like entitled to the financial success of DXdao, but they don't directly have governance power. So in short, governance 2.0 solves this by like marrying DXD and reputation into a unified like concept of voting power and control over the DAO. And yeah, we could talk more about how that would work, but I think we could save that for another call.
Yeah, completely agree. Maybe we can do a deep dive. Just trying to find the Gov 2.0 announcement. I don't know if anyone has that handy, but it's a good read for anyone looking to learn.
I think Chris has it posted on the wall above his bed, so he can probably just...
It's funny, I find myself sharing this Celebrate 2 years of on-chain governance a bit more. But those are the two Medium posts that I do share a lot. Here it is. Google is effective.
Here we are. Perfect. Yeah. So maybe a bit more on governance 2.0 and just some information on that in the coming weeks. Just because we're kind of wrapping up the end of the call here, I wanted to give a quick update on two things. First of which, Twitter Spaces. We are going to, obviously, we've talked a bit about Twitter Spaces, how we're going to handle that, and the possibility of a show coming out. That show, I think we had last call was Operation Decentralization. Will kind of be a fun little focus on decentralization, little show, have lots of fun guests. No confirmed date for that yet, but, and this is obviously something we're going to confirm in the next day or two, we're looking to have a little trial run of Twitter Spaces next week. Again, pay attention to the events tab here in Discord. It will have a little bit more information, and of course the community updates channel as well. But potentially next week we'll be doing a little bit of experimentation. It will not formally be the show, just kind of translating this community call to Spaces, making sure we've crossed our T's, dotted our I's, and we're familiar with the platform before moving forward with the show. But a bit more on the branding and kind of a formal announcement of that show, I believe, should be coming out in the next couple of days or weeks here. The other important thing to pay attention to, especially if you are a Swapr user, I shared this in the DXdao general chat, but Arbitrum just kind of announced their Odyssey launch date for mid-June, and Swapr, of course, is in week 6. So you can kind of infer roughly when Swapr will be up in the limelight from there. I believe, what is that, late July, early August area. So super, super exciting stuff. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Arbitrum Odyssey, just kind of the Arbitrum team highlighting individual projects and pushing Arbitrum users to each protocol. So we'll haven't fully confirmed with their team yet, but we'll probably have some condition regarding staking in our active campaigns and or using our interface. So get excited for that as well. There's been some discussion of other fun campaigns we can launch alongside the Odyssey. Cool. That about does it for me, what I want to call attention to. Open any questions, comments in the chat. Maybe a bit of casual chatter here, but we can wrap it up in the next minute or two. Any thoughts from anyone on the stage? I guess maybe a quick fun topic is some airdrops, Hop and Optimism coming out. I don't know if anyone here is eligible or participating.
Is it me or all the airdrops lately just like announced, but then where's the token?
I guess Element.
Like I've got a growing list of airdrops that have been Element, Optimism. There's all like some form of announcement or maybe even like a non-transferable token that you could claim, but then still no liquid token. So has me wondering.
I agree with Luigi in chat, milking the marketing before paying.
I feel like we're on the downslide here. Like, the bull market is fading and the airdrops are just not as sweet as they used to be. Did you guys see what Hop is doing with the Sybil?
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. I really love that. Basically, for those of you that aren't aware, Hop is having like a Sybil defense mechanism where anyone can submit a report for any Sybil wallets for the Hop airdrop. And that amount, I believe, is 25% of whatever you protect goes to you as the reporter. So, any Sybil wallets that made it through their initial criteria are effectively reduced by an additional 75%. And that amount, I believe, is distributed to everyone that's eligible for the airdrop. So basically, if you're just receiving an airdrop, you'll get a higher portion when those Sybil wallets get taken out. Anecdotally, I don't know how much I had at the start, but I think it's been increased by like 33% or something nominal already. I read a thread on it maybe on the weekend.
Smoke them out.
Yeah, I mean, there's not very many. I mean, everyone's trying to solve this Sybil thing, and it's such a simple, like, crowd-funded, like, it's such a like obvious idea. I don't really know how it hasn't been.
I do imagine it takes some work on their side to implement it, so I could see why others maybe didn't get to this earlier. But yeah, pretty cool to see the innovation. I forget where I saw it. May have been in one of these chats, but the idea of like leveraging, I think it was a DXdao Discord chat, but like leveraging other like activity in other projects, kind of like cross-referencing those as a way of like Sybil resistance, but it's a little tricky though. I think Chris Winfrey from Hop said this, like the flip side to this is getting paraswapped, which is you cut out your actual core users from the airdrop and then aggravate everybody and make them hate you.
Whereas I feel like this strategy is just to incentivize snitching. People go out and find the Sybil attackers.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach.
I did see there was something on Swapr or someplace recently on Arbitrum where I just saw like 20, it was like the same, it was like 10 transactions of like 25 Swapr or something. So that's a little weird.
I mean, if you
Arbitrum,
play it out,
obviously, playing a lot of games there.
The Sybil attackers, Sybil attack, the Sybil hunt in the future. Like, because even the like self-reporting Sybil attackers are getting something in the hop. I don't know. It's just, I think it's a bit of a cat and mouse game. Is my point.
That's what we're here for. That's what's entertaining.
Yeah, I hope they do a big, long write-up on this after. I'm curious on some of the data.
Let's keep it short. But write-up, yeah, no.
Well, speaking of keeping it short here, just a bit over the top of the hour, let's wrap up the community call. Once again, just as we're wrapping up, take a look at the transition. Take a look at the DXstats update and the caret.eth update. Of course, for audio listeners, that's dxstats.eth.limo or caret.eth.limo. Those have some big updates. Please take a look. We have the Odyssey coming up as well, and look forward to next week where we'll be potentially having this community call in Twitter Spaces to experiment with the format. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We'll see you not the same place next week, same time next week. Pay attention to the events tab, of course, but thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Cheers.